2024 has come to an end, and now that we are in 2025, let's take a look back at everything that Niantic did for Pokémon Go in 2024, and hopefully we can gauge whether or not Pokémon Go is a much better game than it was in 2023, and what improvements they could make to make it a much better game in 2025. Hey, how's it going everyone? Jinsula here with a brand new Pokémon Go video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. So, today we're going to be talking about all of the hits and misses when it comes to Pokémon Go in the year 2024. There are certainly a lot of really good things that Niantic did for Pokémon Go that I feel like they do not get enough credit for, but of course there's also a lot of things that Niantic did very wrong with Pokémon Go that I feel deserves a lot more attention. So, that's what this video is going to be all about. We're going to be talking about all the positives and negatives with Pokémon Go in the past year, and I really do hope this generates a really good discussion on how Pokémon Go can see vast improvements in the coming year. I really do think there's a lot of positive things Niantic could do to make Pokémon Go a much better game, but it's really going to depend on the Pokémon Go community bringing a lot of issues to light, but also talking about all the positives that Niantic did to give them a little bit more positive reinforcement. And yeah, with that said, let's kick things off with some positives. First and foremost, let's talk about all the quality of life improvements that Niantic implemented. I really do think that there's a lot of things that Niantic did for Pokémon Go that do not get enough credit. First and foremost, I really think the raiding experience is a lot better than it was before, and aside from the remote raid pass nerf, which is unfortunately still a part of this game, I think the raiding experience is just a lot better than it was in previous years. The reason why I say that is because Niantic implemented a lot of quality of life improvements to raid battles, and I think a lot of players nowadays have a much more positive experience when they go and do in-person raids. First and foremost, they implemented a way for us to skip the raid lobby timers, and I really do think this is something that should have been in the game a long time ago, but Niantic finally implemented it this year, and I really do think raiding is just so much better because of it. And another major quality of life improvement is the ability to join raids remotely from your friends list. This is something that was actually very recently added, and I feel like the raiding experience is just so much better because of it. But next, let's talk about another major win for Niantic, and that was the live in-person events this year. I'm talking about Pokemon Go Tour as well as Pokemon Go Fest and the brand new Wild Area event, which we got for the very first time this year. I think all three of these events were amazing. Like, regardless if you went to the in-person versions of them or you attended the global versions of them, you had a really good time with these events. They made sure that all of these events were just filled with great content as well as a lot of really good Pokemon for all of us to go after. I really do think that when it comes to the live in-person events as well as the major global events, Niantic always does a really good job. That's something that I've always believed, that Niantic is fully capable of providing really good in-person experiences. And I think compared to other years, this year in particular was actually really good for these live in-person events. With the Go Tour event, we saw the debut of Origin Form Dialga and Origin Form Palkia, and then with the Go Fest event, we saw the fusion forms of Necrozma make their debut. And then of course the Wild Area event was just a brand new thing with the introduction of mighty Pokemon and a whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah, overall, I think it was a very positive experience with all of the live in-person events this year, and I really hope that for future years, they're going to continue doing these events because I really do think they're a staple of some of the most positive experiences with Pokemon Go. Now, another major positive, in my opinion, was the frequency of raid days. This is something that I've been personally asking for when it comes to Pokemon Go, and Niantic had seemingly delivered. In the past, it seemed like we would only get maybe 1 or 2 raid days with every single season, but they made it a monthly event, and because of that, it's provided a lot more activities for players to do on a monthly basis, and it actually gave a lot of people some ways to actually play with their community. And the one thing that I always appreciated about these raid days is that they would ease off some of the restrictions with remote raiding so that you could still participate even if you're not able to go out and join a community. And another thing that I feel deserves mention, but may not necessarily be something that a lot of players will care about, is the Community Day Pokemon this year was actually pretty good compared to previous years. In my opinion, when it comes comes to Community Days and Community Day Classics, they're going to be successful depending on what Pokemon Niantic chooses to have as the spotlighted Pokemon. And this year we had a really good slate of Pokemon for Community Days. We had some notable surprises like with Chansey Community Day, as well as with some other Pokemon like starter Pokemon making their debut. And of course we had some really solid Community Day Classics. And I really have to say that this year's Community Days was actually really good, and I hope 2025 will deliver in this one area, because Community Days, in my opinion, are just really important for driving up engagement as well as community-based play. And then finally, we of course have to mention that Niantic gave us Gen 8 Pokemon in Pokemon Go. I think this was really cool because not only does it introduce a lot of new Pokemon, but it also introduced a lot of new mechanics like Dynamax Pokemon and Max Battles, and I really do think that they did a pretty good job with the release of this new generation. Yeah, they're drip feeding us new Pokemon, and that's going to be pretty much how Niantic is going to do things from this point out. But I still think that they handled the release of the Galar region pretty well, because they brought us the starters first and foremost, and they also brought in a bunch of really key Pokemon that a lot of players actually want. I just really hope that in 2025 they continue to give us more and more new Pokemon, because that's one of the areas where I feel like it was kind of lacking with this year. They did not give us a lot of new Pokedex entries, even though we got a new generation. So yeah, overall, these are the areas where I will say Niantic did a really good job with Pokemon Go. There were certainly a lot of really good upsides with this year, and I do think that for the most part, Niantic did some really solid work in creating a very positive experience for Pokemon Go players. But now we gotta talk about some of the negatives, because as much as there were a lot of positives this year with Pokemon Go, there was equally, if not more, a bunch of negatives that really hampered the experience for a majority of people, especially those who have been playing this game for a very long time. The first thing that we gotta talk about is, of course, monetization. This is an area of Pokemon Go that has been incredibly contentious, especially as of late, and I think Niantic made a lot of major missteps with monetization. First and foremost, there's so many different in-app purchases that you have to take care of nowadays in order to get a complete experience with every single in-game event, with all of the special events like the ones that I mentioned earlier with Go Fest and Go Tour and the Wild Area event. And then on top of that, they're introducing new Pokemon and even new shiny Pokemon through basically paywalled content like egg hatching and raid battles and special research, and all that stuff can be very cumbersome, and it just drives a lot of players away from wanting to play Pokemon Go, because in the past we did not have to deal with any of this stuff. Like if you wanted the brand new Pokemon that they would be introducing with a new event, you did not have to pay for it. You could just simply go out and catch it in the wild. And if you wanted to get yourself a really good one or possibly a higher shiny rate, then yeah, maybe you could raid for it or hatch a bunch of eggs. But aside from that, there was always a free to play method for you to get every single new Pokemon. But Niantic has not made that the case for the past couple of years, and it really has come to a head this particular year. Because with every single in-game event, it seems like there was a new special research ticket, and those tickets would have different bonuses and new Pokemon that typically you would get for free with those events. Like for example, this New Year's event that's actually currently ongoing, a lot of the bonuses and a lot of the costume Pokemon are now stuff we have to pay for, whereas in the past, it was all stuff that was just naturally included. So yeah, it's a huge misstep in this area. I really feel like with monetization, they could do a much better job in 2025, and I really do hope that in this one area of the game, we see drastic improvements. Now, probably the biggest fail of the year for a majority of players has to be the avatar customization update. Wow, what a disaster this was. I mean, yeah, this was something that a lot of players have been asking for several years now. They want to get more customization options for their avatars. But the way that Niantic implemented this, it was just not what players were expecting. It was incredibly bad. I feel like everything that Niantic did with the avatar customization update just completely ruined the entire system. I mean, if you're going in there and customizing your avatar nowadays, it's a disaster. It's a nightmare. Like, your character will always look ugly, in my opinion. There's nothing you can do to make your character actually stand out. And not only that, it broke a lot of the features that was already there. Like some of the poses just simply do not work, and some of the customization options like clothing and hairstyles, it just all looks incredibly bad. And Niantic has not done anything with this, and I really feel like in 2025, they need to dedicate some resources into fixing the avatar customization options, because yeah, it just feels like this was such a huge stain on Pokemon Go. I mean, they got no positive press with this whole thing. And yeah, with the Pokemon Go community, it just really was a bad look, honestly. Niantic needs to do something about this, and I really hope in 2025 we get another update to the avatar customization system, because as it is right now, it is a huge disaster, and I really do not think it's going to be good moving forward. And yeah, another huge miss has got to be the Dynamax system as well as max battles. This was just another thing that Niantic was paywalling for players. And yeah, there was a lot of really good concepts and a lot of great potential with this new system, but overall, the execution was just a huge miss. I think a lot of players just had a really hard time getting engaged with the Dynamax system, and it really comes down to some of the incentives, because if you're engaging with max battles and getting Dynamax Pokemon, there should be some other aspects to it that will actually incentivize players to actually engage with this new system. Sure, you can get yourself some really cool Pokemon, and yeah, it is a new form of progression, but I think for a lot of players, they just simply do not care about max battles because there's no reason for them to do them, because when you collect Dynamax Pokemon and Gigantamax Pokemon, it does nothing for your raid battles, it does nothing for your PvP battles, and because of that, players just simply do not care about it. Yeah, there's going to be some players who are going to be enthusiastic about max battles, but overall, I just feel like the sentiment around them is just apathetic. No one really cares about them, and you could definitely feel it in major events like the Wild Area event, and I think the only exception is going to be whenever they introduce a Gigantamax Pokemon and have a huge max battle day, because Gigantamax Lapras was probably the one time where I actually felt some enthusiasm for Dynamax battles, but outside of that, I just feel like no one really cares about this whole thing, and it's something Niantic needs to reevaluate. And one other thing that I really do think is a huge miss with max battles is the incredible difficulty of Gigantamax battles. The fact that you need, close to 40 trainers in order to comfortably take it down, that is something that is incredibly broken. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up. 2024 was definitely a year of ups and downs. Again, there was a lot of really good things that Niantic did, and I really do think they deserve a lot of credit for it. The quality of life improvements to raid battles, for one, is something that I really feel was a huge positive for this game. But of course, we've also seen a lot of negatives and some major steps down from previous years. So yeah, I really hope Niantic gets their act together, because I really do think 2025 is going to be a pivotal year for Pokemon Go, because if Niantic does not change their ways in some areas of this game, I think there's going to be a lot of players who are just going to be fed up with the game and just not play the game anymore. It's definitely starting to show in my local communities. A lot of players are just starting to show less and less enthusiasm for Pokemon Go. And when it comes to a lot of the features and a lot of the raid bosses and a lot of the content, it's going to be a lot harder for Niantic to draw the attention of players, especially those who have been playing for a very long time. And those are the players who tend to spend the most and keep the game afloat. So yeah, hopefully Niantic will make some very positive changes in 2025 and continue on with some of the positive things that they did in 2024. But that's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts regarding everything that I talked about down below. Is there anything in particular in 2024 that you actually enjoyed? Or is there something in 2024 that you felt like was a huge detriment to Pokemon Go? Definitely share what those things were in the comments down below, and let's have a great discussion. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this very long video. I am Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you in the new year.